in a broken wasteland. Come to my fire.
What's going on, metalheads? Thank you all for tuning in to this week's episode of the Metal Forge. My name is Mark Jackson, and I am your host. We have an extra special guest this week from Kallias. Nicole, could you give everybody your last name so I don't sound like a moron in pronouncing it?
Hey guys, my name is Nicole Papastavro, and I am the vocalist and guitar player in Kallias.
Fuck yeah. So before we get into all the band talk, how's it going? How you doing?
It's going great, just trying to get through the workday, like all of us, and, make time for band stuff. It's going to be a really busy month, just prepping for the album release. So doing a lot of press stuff, and we're completely DIY. So I'm doing all the press, the marketing and everything, which is what I do for my regular job as well. So everything's music related, music marketing, and video as well.
Okay. So you're getting into that right now, like jumping straight in. Now, you say you do that as your day job. Now, are you a music marketer in your day job, is what you're saying as well?
Yeah. So I'm totally independent, but I work for a record label, Reigning Phoenix Music, and I manage social accounts for bands like Meshuggah, Opeth, Kerry King, lots more. And then I have my own roster of bands as well that includes Doth, Rafael Trujillo, a bunch of smaller artists as well. And then I do a lot of ads for tours. So a lot of tours that you're seeing around North America, I do ads for. Of course, video.
When you say do ads for, you mean like the ad that you see on like Instagram is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like sponsored post type stuff?
Yeah, exactly.
That's amazing, because how the world has changed so much. Because I'm not old, but I'm old when it comes to like antiquated ways of doing things, so this is actually a cool thing that we have you on for that as well, because I always like to, when bands are starting out, it's like things, what can you do to be different? What can you do to connect to a larger fan base? And it used to be being able to go to shows and booking and all that stuff. But now in like 2025, here we are, where you have social media managers and things like that, and sponsored posts and whatnot. And so since you've got into the music industry, how have things changed that regard?
Wow. Well, I have been doing this for probably over 20 years at this point as an artist. And I will say that it's so different now from when I started, because I started touring at a very young age, 18, 19, 20 years old. And I was booking my own tours across the US, in Europe. We even went to South Africa. And all of these tours I was booking on like Facebook, and it was kind of before social media was really a thing.
Sure.
And that was like the only thing we had to really promote ourselves. I mean, yeah, we were like on Facebook or MySpace or whatever, but we were actually going out there.
Message boards.
Yeah, we were going out there and just touring, and one of my earlier hardcore bands. And after that, after a few years of doing that full time, my projects after that weren't really touring. So I couldn't get together, just kind of the right recipe to get people to just throw their whole lives on in the garbage to go on the road and live in a van.
Sure.
I had a music, like a band manager at one point that was like, oh, you need to start YouTube and you need to start doing like metal covers. And I was like, oh my God, like what does this even mean? So I started a YouTube and I started doing covers, and like it was really like blowing up for a while. And then from there I started realizing like, oh, this is a really great way to get people to check out your own music and just kind of
Mhm.
build your profile online. So, a lot of people tend to want to connect with something familiar at first. And then, if they're really interested, they'll dive deeper to see what else you're doing, like as an artist. So that's kind of like where the whole marketing thing started for me. And I just started, growing my profile, and I became really interested in video and just kind of telling stories visually. So I got really into videography and worked on like a couple documentaries, and then started filming music videos. Um, and it just kind of goes from there. So you just kind of pick up all these skills along the way on how to market yourself online. And yeah, a few years ago, like I just started doing it full time within the industry.
Okay. So, wow, that's a lot to unpack, first off, because that was kind of like the whole big thing. The broad strokes, as it were. And as I kind of chimed in, and when you were telling the story about local message boards, totally started out that way, I'm sure. Like, hearing about venues from friends who played there when you're booking your tours online or in the early 2000s, early to, what, 2005, 6, 7. So you mentioned YouTube, and like on my account, not this one, like my band account, I have an 18-year-old video. So it's like 2006. When did you jump into the YouTube game? Because it's like around that sweet spot, like 2008, 2010, it went crazy good, and then like all of a sudden became oversaturated, it seemed like overnight.
I think it was around 2012, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
Maybe it wasn't at that initial boom, but I feel like it was early enough
early enough.
to for it to catch on. So yeah,
Okay.
now it's crazy.
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're doing like the marketing deal for, and you do it for yourself already. So it's like obviously keeping it in house. The only way you would take it out is if it was something that you didn't want to have to personally deal with, I'm sure. But like when you're doing this for other bands, when you're telling them it's like, or saying, hey, maybe you should do this, or suggesting things that might be on a trend level, how often do you get the flack back being like, oh man, really? Like we got to do that? Like, do you get that back from anybody? I'm sure like older guys and or older people in bands would be that way, but maybe not younger ones per se.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing is like I'm not any of my clients, I'm not really just so out of the loop or unfamiliar with. Like, of course, there's wish lists, like certain huge artists where I wish they would all just do playthroughs, but maybe they're all in their 50s by now and they don't really want to do that. So I already know
Yeah,
not
like
to
Gary King.
make those, right. So I already know not to make those asks, and I'm already familiar with like what they will do and what they won't do, or what they'll like or what they won't like. And a lot of that happens early on conversations with management and just kind of getting
Sure.
to know. Some people love to be on camera and go to events and show up and talk about things. And other, more legendary artists just they don't even want to be on camera at all. They don't want to do any press. So a lot
Sure.
of that stuff is like
Oh,
figuring out
believe
how to,
me. I
yeah, it's
get that
figuring
a
out how to
lot.
like repurposing some of their older content, but in a more modern format for social
Sure.
media. So that's kind of been the formula with older bands. And then younger bands are pretty much willing to do almost anything. Like it's so hard to break through these days that, you have to keep up with trends and see like what the algorithm is favoring and what it isn't. And one thing that works for like 3, 4 artists is not always going to work for another artist at their
Sure.
size. So it really, it's just a lot of testing and analyzing after, months of doing content to see what works.
No, absolutely. And that's the whole thing about it these days, is that the algorithm changes so much and so quickly, even, you know, that just because something's trending on just take this week, for example. And by the time we're recording this, it's been an interesting week in the music and entertainment world. We've had, you know, the death of Ozzy, the death of Hulk Hogan, you know, people who seemingly had their finger on the pulse of entertainment for so long, you know, and yeah, but tomorrow, who knows what's going to happen? And we could, anything could happen. And like, you just stop seeing those posts. Like last week, it was the Coldplay thing, you know, for the millions and millions and millions of posts of bands, you know, everybody had a meme of it. You know, James and Dave, you know, the thrash stuff had their version of it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we're actually here to talk about Kallias also, and you will have a new album coming out, Digital Plague.
We do. Yeah, I'm super stoked. This is our second album. And I feel like this one, you know, we've kind of solidified our sound, I think, but I don't know, that might change like a few albums later. But this one
Well,
really is special to me. It's the first one that I, you know, fully produced, with the exception of a couple songs from our new guitar player. The whole experience of just, you know, writing and producing an album was so crazy to me, just coming from usually just being a guitar player most of my life. So this was really put things into perspective for me.
so and okay, so being quote mostly a guitar player for your life and actually taking that step into the producing. Um, Obviously you've written many songs, you know, at this point in your career, as it were, whether it be in hardcore bands or whatever from back in the day. So why now? Why now producing? Why not? What took you so long to make that step, I guess?
I guess in 2020, we kind of went through, we're sort of a pandemic band, I must say. I mean, starting around 2019, 2020, I think that qualifies us as a
It
pandemic
does.
band. Um, and, you know, starting a metal band around that time is kind of a crazy idea because no one really knows what's going to happen. Like, we had just started the band, and then, like, barely a year later, we're in this situation. So, you know, we kept going, and of course, all of our first shows got canceled that entire year. And after that, like, we went through some member changes, and I decided, you know, this is not going to move forward as fast as I want it to if I don't expand my skill set. So that meant really learning my way around a DAW, learning how to program other instruments when, you know, other musicians couldn't uh, keep up with the writing speed. So it was, so many things happened where I was just like, okay, like I can't just be writing riffs and then like waiting around for people to like send me drums when they have time or send me a new mix of the track or add orchestrations or whatever. I'm like, I've been doing this shit long enough where like I need to be able to know the basics of doing all this stuff myself. So that's kind of when it all started. And, you know, flash forward 5 years later, um, I've been working a lot on music and audio production, just not just from like a content perspective, but from producing a whole album. So yeah, it's been a really long, interesting journey.
Sure. Well, and I mean, you know, you're also looking at like say this album, you know, and plus you had an album in 2023 as well. Um, correct, which
Yes.
was just First Ascent.
Yep.
And so I mean that has, you know, 9 songs on it. And then, you know, this has 8 songs. So Yeah, riffs for days. I mean, you're with doing the thing in 5 years. You really gotta put in the effort to put out 2 albums in that amount of time. Not to mention any singles and such too.
Yeah, we only put out one single before this album, Mouthless Embassy, and I was hoping that we could just slap it on the album as well, but it just didn't really work out with having to retrack drums and whatnot. So we're just like, let's just leave it alone, let it be, a single, and yeah, and then here we are with the new album.
Yeah, and I okay, so real quick, I want to hit on this and we can talk about the actual album and everything. Now, so I love the artwork. The just like the extreme detail to it reminds me of something like Mobius would do. Um your logo, is it a Christoph logo? Did Christoph do the
No,
logo? No, it
no.
looks like a Christoph Spagel logo. It's really, really reminiscent of his work, like the band Emperor, and oh my gosh, now I say that and I can't think of any of his bands, but no, like the play of the colors and everything. It kind of reminds me of like the Tarna image, like that whole segment in the movie Heavy Metal, the way the desert looks and all of that. Um, so who did the artwork for the album really quick?
So the artwork is by an artist called Mont Doom,
Okay.
and he actually does a lot of like doom metal art. But I love his style so much, and I'm like, do you work with, maybe like progressive death metal bands? But when I was telling him like the concept and we were going back and forth with ideas, like I love the idea he had of using this samsara wheel and just kind of like digitizing it, making all these like cables come off and then
Oh, sure.
just have this sort of dystopian Dune-like environment with
Mm-hmm.
these monks kind of like going to this wheel to just charge up or whatever they're doing there. So I thought it was like a pretty cool concept, that goes along with the theme of digital plague.
Sure, absolutely. And like I said, I'm a Masters of the Universe fan, and you could probably see that on my desk here a little bit. But like that is total like the post-apocalyptic imagery of like living in a digital, like the digital overworld kind of thing where it's just like, you know, too reliant on machinery, kind of your
Exactly.
own worst enemy of the thing. So now that we've talked about that, which everybody needs to fuck it, I'll edit this in because I'll actually take a copy of it and put it on the screen for that. So um but great songs, honestly, all the way through. I listened to it in its entirety. uh you'd sent me the entire playlist on a couple of days ago, so I listened to the entire thing. And just before this, I listened to it again, and honestly it is nonstop. uh I really enjoy all of it. It doesn't sound like, there is a cohesive part, it like feeling between everything. It feels like, too often there's so many bands that, it there's some bit of disjointed feeling in albums. Like track 1 and 3 or they sonically sound different than tracks 5 and 6. But no, everything across the board sounds great. So the production is, I love it, and it's exactly what I think it needs to be for the progressive death genre. Like it
Thank you.
does it does sound like, you bring up anybody else in the genre, and I think it you know it holds its own, which it should. And I know that probably had to be a conscious effort.
Definitely. Yeah, I wasn't really sure where it was going to go after I initially wrote the first track, which is the focus track, Digital Plague. Um, that song just kind of came out of nowhere. And at the time that I wrote that, it was shortly after First Ascent came out because I just got right back to work after the first album came
Sure.
out. Um, and it was so different than like anything we had on the last album because I was like, okay, I need to, learn how to do orchestrations and synth design and do this whole like songwriting thing by myself. We didn't have a guitar player anymore at the time. So I was just on my own writing back then. And, from there, like they just kind of started pumping out. And I feel like there is still quite a bit of dynamic to the album. Like there's some songs that are pretty um, heavy on the orchestrations, and then there's others that are like very synth heavy. So
Sure.
there kind of is that sort of contrast, but I feel like it balances itself out. And um, I'm a fan of songwriting, so I really did want to keep the songs relatively structured, but still have two or three in there that were experimental.
For sure.
So the most recent single we put out, The Final Cleansing, was actually one of those
Right.
experimental
And
tracks.
honestly, you know, it's really interesting because uh, there is it's not really a band. It is a singular person that writes and records everything for this and puts it out. But it's called Hillsfar, and the logo is pretty similar to yours, actually.
Oh,
And but it's all instrumental tracks. And what's wild is the final cleansing at the very beginning, where it kind of has the synth start to it. And it kind of triggered that for me. I was like, wow, this kind of it had like, because he does uh kind of like dungeon crawl music, I guess you could call it. It's like something that you would hear. It's something that you would hear it's like the bard playing in the D&D tavern kind of stuff.
oh
um
my God.
which at the beginning, where it's just like with the early, with the low synth and kind of the neoclassical kind of stuff coming in, it triggered that thought of it. And I was just, stuff like that on album, being a fan of songwriting myself, that's the stuff that is like, wow. When, as you said, familiarity earlier, people want to get into, doing the covers, whatever, doing something like getting the familiarity in there, and then just seeing where it goes. So like at that song, it had me at just like from the beginning, because I heard that and was just like, wow, this reminds me of this. Where can this go? Because I know it's
Yeah,
not.
it's definitely a slow burn.
Yeah, well, it's definitely not
And
like I said. You're nowhere in, like, you're on opposite sides of the musical spectrum, you know, and just being able to hear, like, because we all play on the same group of notes and stuff, to hear the similarities involved, and to sit there and to say, it's like watching a film. Where does this go next? Like with cinematography and things like that, just like the little nuances that we add in that are our own idiosyncrasies and stuff.
yeah, I mean, obviously the synth in that track was just very Vangelis inspired and uh, Blade Runner. So like finding all those synth tones and tweaking them and just doing a lot of like live. A lot of that synth has just live automation. and I just recorded audio. So it
Sure.
wasn't like a lot of messing around in post. It was just kind of, messing around on the analog synth and just like tweaking things. And um, then that sound goes away forever after that moment. So it was pretty cool to incorporate those elements into that track and just sort of make it more of like a movement and not worry so much about like, oh, how is this song going to be structured and where's the chorus going to go, and there has to be this build up here and all that. It was very much just like a free flow type thing.
Okay. So when, in a genre like progressive death, when you do think things like that, where there are so many like chugs and mutes and riffage, when it does happen, like how do you like assess your songwriting like that, where it's like you just said, like when a chorus has to go here or a bridge has to go here and you have to put those parts in, whenever it does it, how do you, it's like, when, I guess what I'm asking is, walk me through a typical songwriting process. And I know it's atypical because every song is different, because I'm a
Mm-hmm.
musician too, and every song I've ever written has been completely different than the one before. It has its own pace. But when you sit down to start writing and you come upon that thing to build on, how do you do it?
So luckily, I've done a lot of demos on this for like songwriting and whatnot, and I do like to make sure I don't get stuck in this like comfort zone. And for me, um, the comfort zone has always been just pick a tempo and just put the click on and then just start riffing, right? Because, I'm a guitar player. That's how I started. It's very guitar focused music. So that's kind of typically what I would start with. But, nowadays, like the last few years, I've really been trying to break free of that and trying to start songs with different instruments. So it could be drums, programming something or finding some MIDI or whatever, or starting something with synth or orchestration. So a lot of the album now, they kind of, all the songs start differently. And I do make it a point after writing one song, I make sure the next song does not start like that first song, whether it's like all the instruments together or if it's going to be some sort of build up, or, if one song has like an intro and I took my time getting into it, I'm going to make sure like the next track I write is just going to go like straight into the band and has full energy in the beginning. So to me, it's just kind of about keeping a healthy balance. Um, and then typically, if I'm like, maybe like a minute or two within a song is when I start to think about the structure and I start to think about a chorus, um, because, you don't want the chorus to come in at like 3 minutes.
Oh, yeah,
So sometimes,
absolutely.
yeah, ideally, I mean, like, people say, or the industry says, like, there's really not these rules, but of course, if you're trying to like, your goal is to make radio and do
Yeah,
this and that, then yes, like you can't have any intros because no playlists are going to pick you up. You got to get to that chorus within the first like minute, or even sooner
40
at
seconds
some.
usually.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah,
There's all these crazy rules. So I try not to get stuck in that box, but I also keep it in the back of my mind as well. When writing an album. So, you know, yeah, like I do look at timestamps, to try not to get carried away with certain
sure.
sections when things are dragging, and just making sure like, when verses come back, there's new elements being introduced, or there's, the guitar parts have some sort of variation in them and it's not too repetitive.
For sure. That's a new thing to me as a musician, is the timestamp thing. I've never used timestamps ever. Now I'm in a band where I have a vocalist that sends lyrics, and it's like, time stamped out each line. I'm like, whoa, this is weird. It's like, so,
Yeah. I
so it's
got used
like,
to doing that and like paying attention because I'm pretty bad with time management. So if I don't deliberately, make sure that I am looking at where am I at now? Like I have to look at the big picture. Like I'm like right here, but I still have to go all
sure.
this way. So I need to start kind of pre-planning like what might happen.
Well, and that's funny that you say it that way based on like a songwriting aspect, because we haven't even talked about the arrangement part, and we're not going to either. But no, like as you said, making sure that if this song starts this way, that the next song has to, you want to change it up so not everything sounds the same, which also plays hell in arranging an album. And and looking at this part of the song and then having to think about the rest of it is the exact same way, making the album.
Yeah, I mean, as far as arranging too, I think there was really only one track on the album that I had a lot of trouble arranging. And there were like, I don't know, six different versions.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and I work in Cubase, and there's a really cool like arranger tool there where you can actually timestamp parts of the track in your session. And then when you open the arranger window, you can start swapping around those parts, and it will also take note of the time changes. So you can like render like a new clip of the song without like destroying the original version,
Sure.
just for like layman terms here, but
No,
you
that's
can like have
great.
all these different renditions of the track, um, you know, and then hear like what it might sound like if you put this transition there, or if you put this chorus a little bit sooner, or whatever. So I kind of went down a rabbit hole at one point with one of those tracks, but the other ones seemed to come like pretty naturally, and I didn't have to do a ton of arranging.
What's so
So
wild about that is, this is what this show is. I say, I told you beforehand, like, well, the general question segment called Derailed, where this whole show gets derailed because, it's conversation based interview. Um, that's so cool that has that. And I didn't know that because, we're using whatever my guitar player uses to record with, and the drummer does it too. I don't know. I come in, I play bass, I go home. I do vocals, I go home.
that's
It's a thing.
nice.
I wish I've always said I was a person who I'm not an expert at anything. I know just enough to get into trouble on something, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. However, but like, if anybody out in Metal Forge land has paid attention to what we've been talking about, if you pay attention to like the Metallica box sets that are coming out, these giant fucking box sets where they have demo versions, they have different timed versions, like might be 10 beats slower, 10 beats faster, whatever the case may be. Imagine doing what we do today on, like, and even they do it digitally, recording something, but like in those days, like the 80s and the 90s and the 70s and shit, where they're doing the same stuff that we're talking about on tape. And
Yeah, it's a
that,
lot of tape you go through.
yeah, it really is. And and we've kind of in a way never had it easier. But then again, with like everything that's out there, it's never been harder, I don't think.
Yeah, I think it's, as far as production, it's so much more accessible to people now that
Sure.
just have a laptop and a small interface that you can take with you everywhere, and pretty much all these plugins where you can create a full production start to finish.
Well, not only
So,
that, but what's so wild too is you know, a lot of these e-kits now with drums, they're those plugins like, oh, they're programmed drums or they're electric drums, you know, 20 years ago where the technology was garbage. Now it's insane. Like the drum technology has come so far in the for recording is what I mean. In, you know, so that alone, yeah, taking your fucking Focusrite anywhere you go, you
pretty
know.
much.
Yeah, I
Yeah, and
mean,
then, you know,
been
with
there, done that. Even with this, you know, and again, no difference in the podcast world. Same thing now, you know. Everybody gets a 7B now, and a Focusrite or a Tascam, and yeah, they just take it everywhere. So before we do switch over to Derailed, what does 2025 you know, post album release, which is on a Thursday, which is interesting because you know you work in the industry and you're releasing on an off day. Is
Yep.
is I mean,
I'm the rebel, I guess.
it
But
was always Fridays, then it became Tuesdays, and it became Fridays again, and now Thursday, August 14th, digital play.
yeah, I definitely had this conversation with a lot of people and even like our distributor, and everybody questioned it. They're like, that's not a release day. You got to release, you know, on Friday or whatever. I'm like, well, you know, we're not on a label, so no one can really tell us what to do. And then releasing on a Friday as like a very small band in the summer.
Yeah,
You are competing with so much noise. Everybody's releasing shit on Fridays. So to me,
sometimes
I'm
that's
just like,
literally.
yeah, it's crazy. It's, you know, and I don't know like if it's gonna be that much better, but to me, I feel like, you know, maybe we'll have like a little bit more attention on a Thursday than we would on a Friday because after
Sure.
release, we're gonna promote the shit out of it. So, you know, I'm not too worried about that. It's more so like the initial drop and the whole build up to it. So yeah, we'll see how it goes.
For sure. No, I think that's a clever way of doing it. As you said, you know, it's like maybe doing it on an off day with not without being on a label in the summer, you know, in the genre that we're in, kind of thing. Maybe it would be a thing. It almost gives it like that leaked vibe, you know, like,
Yeah, and
oh
I'm
shit,
planning on doing like
did
a
this happen?
pre yeah. So I'm planning on doing like a pre-album stream as well the day
Like a list,
before
like a
on
listening party.
Wednesday.
That's
Yeah,
how,
pretty
hell
much.
yeah.
So
That's another one I
online.
think needs to come back. And, you know,
Yeah.
and Bandcamp has started them recently again, where they have a digital listening party, which I think that's a great concept. Um, like one of my favorite listening parties of recent was the band Lucifer. They did a funeral for their album.
Oh wow.
And yeah, like on the release day, they had a listening party that was a legit funeral. And I was like, holy shit, this is cool.
Crazy. Yeah, I've never heard of that, but that's
No.
really cool.
So going past August, go past the album release. Uh, what's going on? What do we got going? There's
So we'll
four
be
more months in
doing
the year.
I know it's we're going to be pushing the record for the rest of the year with a lot of video content, and we're looking to start touring in the spring or early summer of next year. So that's what we're looking at right now.
Hell yeah. Those tours, you know, especially with the way things are in the United States right now, and every fuck what am I saying? Everywhere. The way things are everywhere right now, it's crazy to tour at this point, I think.
It really is. It's not like how it used to be. So, you know, granted, like we won't be doing any super long tours. We're planning on doing a series of short runs just to
Sure.
stay consistent with that and kind of work our way up to longer tours.
Hell yeah. So real quick, so you all are not all based on the West Coast, correct? You're
No,
kind
it's
of,
just me.
yeah, that's what I was going to say,
Yeah.
because when I looked at the page, on the metal archives here, uh, it lists quite a few places actually. It lists New York, it lists New Jersey, it lists LA. I mean, so you guys are kind of
Yeah.
all over the map.
Yeah, our bassist lives in Connecticut, and then our drummer lives in Jersey, and our other guitar player lives near Philly.
Wow. So
So
so you're the one flying out. No.
I am, yeah. I used to live there though. I lived in New
Okay.
York for 10 years, and that's when the band started. But yeah, like 2020, I basically had to move back home, which was California. And
Okay.
then I never went back after that. So now I'm, permanently in California, which is great. I'm glad to, be back. But the guys they're out there, so it's not too bad
Sure.
because I'm the only one that needs to travel. The rest of them are
Sure,
out
sure.
there. So
Now,
we'll,
that's what I was
mostly
going
be
to ask
focusing.
is when you say you're going to do a couple of short runs to rebuild consistency and things like that, was it going to be whatever's
East
considered
Coast.
home base? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it'll be
I
East
was
Coast.
assuming since everybody else was East Coast, that's what you had meant. So hell
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so we're going to do something really kind of interesting here, just because you're here as well and you've got a couple of videos out. What's the first video you want to go to?
The first one. How many are we doing?
We're going to do a couple of them.
A couple? Okay.
Yeah, we'll do one
Um,
here and we'll do one at the end.
okay. So why don't we do final cleansing?
Hell yeah. So here's that. Hell yeah. So now we're going to jump into Derailed. And as we were, discussing some stuff over the video, this is now coming out a week later than what we were talking about earlier. So the album came out yesterday. Yeah. This is what we do here. It's pretty relaxed. It's pretty loose. It's funny that you say you just moved back to LA because over the 4th of July weekend, I was actually out in LA, out in Montrose, Glendale area.
Okay,
So,
cool.
yeah, visiting some friends, having some good times. We went and saw This Is Spinal Tap in the theater because they were releasing it for a special 41st anniversary
Oh, how
deal. So,
fun.
yeah, fun stuff. So Derailed are some random questions about you as a person. Obviously, being a musician, music is life. Same thing for any kind of artist to where you do your thing, you do your craft, whether it be film or stage or whatever, so these can kind of just go wherever you want to take them. When do you feel the most like yourself?
Probably when I'm in my studio writing.
Okay.
I think that's like my happy place. And when I'm writing music, I'm like, oh, this is like exactly what I'm supposed to be doing in life.
Definitely. So yeah, just feeling at home with an instrument in your hand. Uh
Yeah, just being like in front of my studio setup with just all my tools that I could ever want.
for sure, for sure. So how many times out of it do you sit there and you go and you do the thing and you get to that point and you're just like, I got nothing. Does that ever do you just
Uh,
at this point, I'm sure you're pretty regimented on like a practice schedule as well.
yeah, not so much actually. It really depends on like what stage I'm at. So there's not really like I'm not a very routine person. I've always struggled with that. But when I'm working on a project, like that is like all I will do. Like I won't do anything else. And it's hard for
Okay.
me to do anything else. Um, so yeah, a lot of the time, like, when I'm writing or I'm really good with deadlines. If there's a deadline, I will hit that deadline. Even if it's like with myself. If I don't, I'm really hard on myself with that. So typically I can just make shit happen when it needs to happen. And that goes for like if I need to turn in the tracks or if I'm like writing for a demo or something, which sometimes like when it's work, like writing for work, because I do a lot of these product demos and like I'm not feeling it and I only have like 2 or 3 days to like do this. That's when you can't really tell yourself like, oh, I'm not really, I'm not feeling creative today. Like, no, you have to figure something out. And it might
Sure.
not be the best riff or like the best drums I programmed or whatever, but is it something that is going to get the message across and it can pass? That's when I have to make the decision like, all right, I need to just keep building on this thing that I already have and, move along. So
For sure.
it's
Uh,
hard like when you're an artist, you have to just kind of decide when something is finished because something can always be
sure.
better,
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, you know, that's so funny because I was just thinking about this the other day. A friend of okay, so again, derailed. Um, tell a story to tell a story. Um, Friend of mine had never seen the sequels of the Star Wars trilogy, like 7, 8, and 9. So we sat down and I showed him to him, and he goes, you know, the most interesting thing out of all of that is when he said, let go of everything in the past. Make sure you do, you set up for the future. And I feel that exact same thing with bands because like I've started like I'm sure there's always the one riff we all go back to that we all play because we just, it's what we one of the first things we ever learned or we ever wrote or whatever the case may be. But I feel the same way. It's like, oh, I was in this band one time. We never really did anything, but here's this riff. It's like, no, fuck that. We're not that. Leave it alone. Uh, yeah. So just stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, having to focus on putting the forth a new thing. So you said you're doing product reviews also, and looking at some of the pictures on the EPK here, where as I said, the Focusrite picture is amazing because you've got the look. What's other than editing? Just because it's time consuming and tedious and whatever. What in product reviews is the worst part of the job?
I think probably talking on camera. I I feel like I'm not great at explaining like how I do what I do, but this is something I constantly have to do, right? Especially with product demos, is some of them are pretty easy, like that are just performance based, where I can just play, or I can write some like a short track, or I can pick like a riff from like a Kallias song, which is always fun. But when it comes to like walking through like a process, which I've done so many times, it's still every time when I sit down to do that, it's like the most dreadful part is like, and the trick really for me is to script everything out just so that I can like have the comfort of, there are some words on a screen that I can reference to if I just draw like a blank. But usually like once I see the topic, I can just get into it and it ends up coming out. So, but yeah, that's always been the part where like I didn't really enjoy, is like, oh, now I gotta like tell people like how to do this thing, even though there's, probably a million ways to do it. And why should anyone listen to me? But
Well, I
yeah.
mean, I could see that. Like scripting would be to me. I worked with somebody who did that with their segments on the Metal Forge a few years back. And while I thought it was really cool, but it was more like a bullet point kind of thing. Uh,
Yeah, it really
where
is.
they did write out in impressive scripts. And we're here, I'm listening to that slang, scripts. It's like, what the fuck? Script. I got my southern drawl going on here. And yeah, that would be tedious. Other than that, I'd say for me, product demo and review type stuff is, getting loaner copies of things that you have to send back. Just making,
Oh,
I don't have like a place where like I have like a UPS store that's near me. So
uh,
so it's like, oh, here's a label, but you got to send it back. So, stuff like that would be, it's tedious as hell. So
yeah, I could see. I've never had to do that, so but if I did, that would also be really annoying.
yeah, for sure. Um,
So,
if you had a chance to start your career over from the beginning, what would you change?
oh, that's a hard one. I mean, the short answer is I wouldn't change anything because um I feel like the way I started was the way it was supposed to start, with just writing songs and
Mhm.
touring. Um, and I feel like I probably took that for granted because, later in life it became more and more difficult to find other people that were able to do that. And of course, things just got way more expensive and just more complicated to book tours on your own.
Mhm.
Um,
Very
but I
much.
think like if I could really like change like a little thing, it would probably um, maybe just be like the style of music that I toured with. So, just kind of, I mean, I toured in hardcore bands, but, I was always into metal. And
Sure.
I kind of wish like I was able to start doing it like with metal bands. But maybe it wouldn't have been the same that way, because those communities they're sort of related, but they're also very different in a
Oh yeah.
sense. So,
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you have. I mean, honestly, when you really look at it, I mean, you have a lot of crossover in both communities, not just in the aspect of, you know, music crossover, but ideology on the road crossover kind of thing. Couch surfing, for example. Everybody's couch surfing, it seems like, or if you do get to spring and get the hotel room and, the taking turns who sleeps on the floor type thing, it seems like is a thing that everybody seems to do. So, yeah, I mean, it might not have been the same, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it would have been negative either.
Yeah.
So, um, so for me, I think I would have, uh, toured earlier in life a lot more. I
Yeah.
think just like that, leaving home at like, you know, 20 or 18 and being in a band and just playing everywhere you fucking can. And would it be different? Would things be different now, 25 years or so removed? Yeah, it might be. But again, doesn't necessarily mean to be negative, doesn't necessarily mean to be a positive. You just never know. I mean, ultimately, to me, I feel like, hey, there's a Nicole that's living that fucking timeline on some universe right now. So, hey, there's a Mark that's out there living that life in some fucking timeline right now. At least that's the way I feel about it, anyways.
Yeah, I will say it's a great way to see the world like at a super young age,
Mm-hmm.
because you kind of get to travel for free even if you're broke, which is kind of like how we did it back in the day.
Sure.
Um, but you get to do it and play music, so that's the best part.
Yeah, absolutely. And just seeing what's where, you know,
Oh
seeing
yeah,
Arizona, seeing fucking Wyoming, just like what does this place that we all live in look like? It's a big fucking country when you really break it down. So,
yeah.
hell yeah. Um, what is the meaning of rich and poor in today's age?
Oh, that's another really good question. Um, to me, I think you know it really has to do with I think happiness and fulfillment. And if are healthy and you have a good family and you surround yourself with, they say you're the sum of the five people that you surround yourself with the most. And if you have a really strong circle like that, that's supportive and that inspires you, I think you're very rich. If some of those things are missing or you don't have any of that, then to me,
Yeah,
that's the very poor life.
very much.
So,
And no, you're absolutely right, I think. It's about it's not about necessarily a monetary value of thing, not a class situation. It's very much on a human level.
yeah,
And
I
that's
would agree.
totally that's rad as hell because, like, as you said, your circle of people, if you all are uplifting to each other, then everybody will be uplifted. And if you don't have that, then how it's almost as if you have to go through and approach as to, like, why don't you have that? What can you
Mhm.
do to how do you get into bringing back a circle of people that you can trust and that can trust you? It's yeah, I dig that.
Cool.
Oh yeah. What is one thing that everyone, no matter who it is, looks stupid doing?
uh, I don't know. I guess maybe like when you're like doing vocals in your car.
Ah, yes. Yeah. dude.
I
Like,
always,
yeah.
I always feel safe like when like I'm on the freeway, but when I'm at like traffic lights, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't look like a crazy person right now because cars are
I don't know.
stopping. So
Your all's freeways are fucked. Just because there's
true.
so
Yeah,
many
if there's
lanes of
traffic.
just because there's so many lanes of goofy bastards and Teslas fucking clogging up the fucking freeway. That
Yeah.
I say that because here in Kentucky, yeah, we have quite a few of them, but nowhere near the amount you all do. Uh,
Yeah.
but but yeah, it's so crazy, and it doesn't matter. I mean, well, it does because like 1 to like 4 in the mornings, probably not a thing, but like once you're from like 4 to fucking midnight, it's like traffic all the fucking time. Is the way it seems out there.
Yeah. I'm glad I
Especially
don't
on
have
like
to
freeway
commute.
shit.
Yeah, for
Uh,
sure.
if you could marry a fictional character, who would it be?
Oh, uh, I don't think I have an answer for that one.
Oh, come on.
That's
Uh,
like such a random
yeah, that's what this is. It's derailed shit. It's
fictional.
a fictional character from a book, from a play, from a movie, from a cartoon. I don't know.
That's still a big commitment to a fictional.
It is. It really is. Like, could you make the commitment with like Goofy? Like, gosh, I don't know. Like that's a
Oh my God. I don't, man, I don't know. I guess I could just like revert back to like one of my favorite TV shows. So maybe X-Files, maybe Mulder.
ooh, there you go. I mean, for one,
It's
he's
so random though.
not.
I still like, I think that's
I
weird.
mean, like, well, I mean, it would definitely be kind of a long distance relationship.
It would probably be
I
awful.
did not mean that. I did not mean that like he would be in space. Okay. And I don't know like
Yeah.
that came out that way. But like, I mean, when you think about it, it'd be kind of like you probably wouldn't see a lot of each other because he's out
Great.
investigating so much shit. So the times that you
Yeah.
did get to spend together would probably be extremely special time. So yeah, that
Sure.
um yeah, that's a weird one. Bailey on WKRP in Cincinnati, just because she was wearing like a Black Death shirt. And I thought because it was WKRP in Cincinnati, the band Black Death's from Cleveland, and I thought it was their band shirt, and it was actually a whiskey brand out of Texas in the '80s. So,
Oh my God.
uh, who's your favorite actor or actress or both?
Hmm. Wow, should I just say the same? I feel like you just like both of those questions are like because it's like fictional. Um
Well, I mean, who's your favorite actor
yeah.
or actress? Or if you're going with a character, that's cool.
Yeah. I guess like I always liked like Bruce Willis movies. Fifth
Okay.
Element is one of my favorite
Fuck
movies, like
yes.
sci-fi stuff. So I thought
Die
he was pretty
Hard in
badass in that.
space.
Yeah, yeah. Sure, let's
That's
go
so
with
cool.
it.
I just watched a like a half an hour YouTube video where they were talking about that film and like the making of it, and it was like a brand new thing that came out like a couple of weeks ago, and like just everything in it, like they started like that writing that film, like the production company, in it was like in 1990, and it was like
Wow.
98 before it came out, and I was like, holy shit, that's a long time.
Damn, yeah,
But
it
yeah,
is.
Bruce Willis I could totally dig. John McClane, good character. um you know his comedy roles. I love him as Butch in Pulp Fiction. You
Oh
know,
yeah.
the
Yeah, I guess
boxer.
I also thought of him because like there's all this stuff um being posted now about how he's just like immobile and it's like really
Yeah,
sad and
yeah,
so I don't know,
that's
he kind of I
sad.
was like, "Oh, like I've been seeing a lot of him recently. He can't even like talk anymore or so, but
Yeah,
he had a great
it
career.
is upsetting, unfortunately, that
Yeah.
that's probably got to be on par with like thinking like being like a Tony Iommi. When Tony was 20 years old, cutting the tips of his fingers off and stuff like that in the press, being a guitar player, and then being somebody like who's an actor and an amazing actor and can no longer, you know, do his craft because of like a Michael J. Fox almost, because of a debilitating disease. And honestly, as we were just talking earlier, Ozzy, you know, just
Yep.
it's stuff like that that's super heartbreaking and stuff. Who's your favorite recording
Yeah.
artist? Since we did the actor kind of thing,
Um,
who's your favorite musician? Let's just say musician. I'd
Michael
be really
Ackerfeld.
upset if it wasn't a guitar player.
Oh, well, yeah. Yeah, definitely Michael Ackerfeld.
Okay. Hell yeah. I am not familiar with
Opeth.
okay. Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh don't know
Also,
why I
I
blanked there.
probably tied with Ishan.
Okay.
I'm a really big Ishan fan. I think he's a genius songwriter, musician.
Hell yeah. Uh couple more. Is there a popular food that you just don't like?
Uh, yeah, probably poutine.
Really? Is it because
Yeah.
it's is it because like the gravy and the grease and
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. That sounds
Yeah,
gross to me.
I could get that because it does absolutely look unappealing as hell sometimes. But
Yeah.
yeah, I could totally get behind that. I could see
Or
where that.
like mashed potato, anything with gravy just sounds
Oh,
so.
you're
I
not
mean,
so like
I'm
anything gravy.
yeah. I mean, I'm vegetarian too, so like, but even
Okay.
just I think I don't know. Yeah, the sauciness of it is like kind of weird. I
Okay.
also thought
So
of
that
poutine
makes a
because
little bit.
yeah, I'm actually in Canada at the moment, so I thought of poutine. I'm like, that's a really popular food here, and I don't have any interest in eating
That's amazing.
it.
Well, I mean, so like biscuits and gravy are kind of a no-go then.
Ugh, like soggy bread. No.
But it's not though. It's like, but like seriously think about like the structure of that meal being made. It's like first we're gonna make bread with dry flour, and then we're gonna make something else out of flour that stays liquid, and we're gonna put
Yeah.
liquid flour over the dry flour and eat it.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, how many things can you make with flour and eat them
Yeah,
together?
absolutely. So I do have one more question. But before we get to it, as always, links, they're listed below. So please give likes, shares, and follows. Do all the things, all the stuff. Feels like so long since I've said that because I've kind of been a little bit ahead of the game here for a little bit, which is great. But yeah, do all the things, all the stuff. Go buy merch. Go see the band when they go out on the road, as we were talking earlier. Couple of short stints next year. We're looking into at this point. So, but you've got all this time to buy merch and support because that's how you're going to get the physical copies of albums, which is still so fucking cool. That's how you're going to get tour dates and stuff like that because it all helps out. Nicole, thank you so much for coming to the Metal Forge this week. Do you have anybody you would like to shout out or anything else you'd like to promote today?
Just go check us out. Check stream us on your favorite platforms. That always helps. And if you want to support us a little extra, the Bandcamp is there. So shout out to the band and of course all of my sponsors that really enabled me to have all the tools that I needed to produce the record. So yeah, thanks for
Hell yeah.
having me.
Of course. Yes, absolutely. If you were going to a space themed party, what would you wear?
Oh, maybe I would wear like a Lilu costume from Fifth Element. I actually did that
Boom.
before on Halloween.
Now, okay, so I'm familiar with this film. Most of my listener base is probably familiar with this film too. Which Lilu are we going with here? Like
The one that just woke up into.
just woke up Lilu? Fuck yes. Absolutely. Totally digging it. Yeah. That's I love that film. And you know what? I think that's going to be one of my next things as an artist myself. I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to write a concept album of the Fifth Element.
Oh, that would be so sick. Let me know when that comes out.
Just to do a space rock album, even. Like something awesome. like a Hawkwind, back in the day, something like that. Do a space rock album about the Fifth Element the entire time. 8 songs. You've got to have a song for each element.
Oh, 100%. That's no brainer. For sure.
Nicole, again, thank you so much for coming to the Metal Forge this week from Kallias. On our way out today, what are we playing?
Digital Plague.
Hell yeah. Check it out. Metal every day. Kick fucking ass. Thank you all so fucking much.
Thanks, guys.
Inside my mind, I call this hell.
Hey metalheads, you like tattoos? Of course you do. If you're in the Louisville, Kentucky area, come on over the bridge to Clarksville, Indiana, and get you some ink done at Ageless Art. If ink isn't your thing, they have a piercing studio as well. Visit agelessartclarksville.com to see some frequently asked questions, meet the staff. The shop is open Monday through Thursday, 12 to 8 p.m., Saturdays, 12 to 10 p.m., and Sundays, 12 to 6 p.m., all appointment-only spots. You can set up your appointments by phone at 812-283-1793 or email agelessarttattooandpiercing@gmail.com and someone will get you set up for your first or your next tattoo or piercing. Hey metalheads, after going to a rager, what's your ultimate go-to? Mine is totally pizza. So when Overload is playing, or I'm promoting the Metal Forge live showcases, or the big goddamn metal show, I go to Pizza Donisi. Pizza Donisi is gourmet artisan pizza from right here in Louisville, Kentucky. It features things like the pizza of the month, the sandwiches, and also vegetarian and vegan options, which is so totally fucking cool for all of it's awesome pizza. You definitely want to go. Hey, and also from time to time they do cannolis. Oh, so fucking good. You know what they said, man? Leave the gun, take the cannoli. Yeah, just like that in Godfather. They're located right next to the Mag Bar at 1396 South 2nd Street. So either stop in or call in at 502-213-0488. They're open till midnight. The witching hour.
Heineken? Fuck that shit! Pabst Blue Ribbon!
Hey metalheads, you all hear me talk about Mag Bar all the time. It is the home to the Metal Forge live showcases and is an integral stop in the ultimate underground metal tour schedule. They obviously feature live music, but the Mag Bar also has daily specials like Pint and Slice Night on Tuesdays with Pizza Donisi. But they also do Bring Your Own Vinyl on Thursdays with DJ Kent Jackson, and Finer Things Sundays. Located right next to Pizza Donisi at 1398 South 2nd Street, open 3 p.m. to 4 a.m. 7 days a week. Get your asses out to the Mag Bar. Rock out. For 45 years in keeping Louisville weird, Electric Ladyland has been there for all your eccentricities. While they do offer the best smoking supplies out on the market today, there's a whole lot more to check out. From ashtrays and blacklight posters, to records, incense and burners, and items to stock your metaphysical supply. They're open from 10 to 10, 7 days a week. Located at 2325 Bardstown Road in Louisville, Kentucky, and at electricladyland420.com. Roll out. In 2017, one man's vision and passion for all things metal started out as a record store in his house. Years later, the fight against a mainstream empire continues as Shade Beast. An independent metal collective and online store based in Athens, Georgia, is the world's premier heavy metal brand for music heads that value authenticity over the mainstream acceptance. Featuring original t-shirts from some of the best underground artists, as well as stickers, posters from the Shade Beast Presents concert series. unique, one-of-a-kind collectibles and small curated selection of vinyl and cassettes from the masters old and new. Visit shadebeast.com and enter promo code SithLord for free domestic shipping on your first order, whether you're a new customer or returning. And be sure to join the Shade Beast social groups on Facebook and the interwebs to keep up with the new release announcements and talk all things metal and Star Wars. You'll never find a more wretched hive of scum and filth.
Welcome to the night. You think you know Night Demon? Then the Night Demon Heavy Metal Podcast is for you. Step into the darkness as we peel back the curtain to give you an unprecedented, all-access look into the mind and the heart of the demon. We're talking band history, song analysis, studio anecdotes, stories from the road. It's everything a diehard Night Demon fan could want and more. This is the only place to learn the inside scoop, the deep dive trivia, the untold tales from the band members themselves and those closest to the Night Demon story. Need more? The sacred Night Demon Crypt will be pried open to reveal demo recordings that have never before seen the light of day, all with in-depth commentary by the band and the people who were there for the writing and recording process. This is a gold mine, a treasure trove of all things Night Demon. Head over to nightdemon.net or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Since 2013, there has been a calling from the underground, from the graves of all those unholy, and they decided to make a zine to talk about all of this. Soul Grinder Zine! An independent metal zine to keep you informed on all things metal and horror from the underground. Available in both print and digital formats, they're bringing you the best interviews and reviews out there today. Not only do they do the zine, but they also do compilation CDs. Check them out at facebook.com/soulgrinder.zine and start your subscription now. Hey everybody, let me tell you about the new sponsor to the Metal Forge, Unchained Tapes. They're an independent Pennsylvania tape label. They focus on extreme metal and punk with a killer approach to the tape scene. Visit their web store at unchainedtapes.bigcartel.com now to get your fill of tapes. And for being a Metal Forge listener, enter the code METALFORGE10 at checkout to get a 10% discount on your total purchase. That's unchainedtapes.bigcartel.com.
What's up, Metal Forge fans? This is Alan Bishop, the alchemist of Indiana's Black Forest and head distiller at Spirits of French Lick. Do you find yourself drawn to the unexplained, fascinated by the Fortean, or enchanted by the paranormal? If the things that go bump in the night resonate in your mind, then tune into my brand new podcast, If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything. Featuring first-hand accounts, collected stories, interviews, history, and speculation related to all things not of this world. Available now on Anchor, Spotify, Google, Amazon, and more. Set back, relax, and remember, if you have ghosts, you have everything.
Hey, let me tell you guys about Mercenary Press. They're an independent London label and distributor of all things metal. Mercenary Press delivers the goods from their own independent zine. Trust me, you're going to want to get in on that. To distributing various bands from all over the world, including Cramp from Spain and Sadistic Force from Texas. Visit mercenarypress.bigcartel.com to find out what all they have in stock and what you can order. And for Metal Forge listeners, enter code METALFORGE10 to receive a discount on your total purchase at mercenarypress.bigcartel.com. Check it out now. Hey Metalheads, it's with great pleasure I get to tell you guys about a new sponsor to the Metal Forge, Ageless Art, New Albany. After 20 years of owning and operating Ageless Art in Clarksville, Indiana, Phil Garrett had a vision for a new type of tattoo studio. Something that is clean and modern, sleek, refined, inviting. And he's done just that with Ageless Art in New Albany. You can find it at 2736 Charlestown Road, New Albany, Indiana, 47150. Business hours are Monday through Saturday, 11 a.m. to 7 p.m. Sundays are 12 to 6. All sessions are appointment only, so give them a call and go get you some new ink. Or if it's your first time, go get your first one, baby.
In a broken wasteland, come to my fire and place your blood and steel upon my